All right, folks. Welcome. Week 1, CE 155, facility layout and design. Everyone excited to design your dream business? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. I like that answer. Good. Good. I think a lot of you have already kind of started digging around and looking at other businesses and stuff like that. So that's awesome. Please dive right in. And if you have questions along the way, I'm here to help answer them as the Chef Ryan. So get after it. I'm going to go over some housekeeping stuff first. I guess I should introduce myself. I don't know if everyone knows me or not, but anyway, I'll do it anyway. I am Chef Tyson. As I said, I live in Denver, Colorado most of the time. I'm in snowy Montana right now, however. So I'm originally from Montana, so kind of travel back and forth a little bit. I have a good bit of experience in breakfast restaurants. I also have a small butcher shop and bistro type restaurant in downtown Denver that I opened a couple of years ago. So got a lot of experience cutting up meat and making sausage and all that good stuff. So if you got questions about any of that kind of thing, I'm your man. I also have some baking experience and kind of everything in between there. So please don't hesitate to ask a question and chime in whenever you want to. So on a similar note too, if for some reason I get booted off of Zoom, please stay with Chef Ryan or who's ever there. Internet crashes or whatever that might happen. Please just we are going to keep recording, and so just hang with us, and hopefully I'll be able to get back and whatever else. So similarly, if you guys have to leave for a bit and come back, I'm totally fine with that. Do your thing. Just make sure that you do watch these live sessions, because we are going to cover questions and then upcoming assignment issues too. So a lot of important stuff we're going to talk about. So, what else? Oh, if you Chef Ryan's going to be taking care of the messages. So if you have a question and I'm talking too much, or I'm ignoring you and you're waving your arms around or whatever, hit Ryan up via a message, and he will somehow try to stop me, and we'll get your question answered, I promise. If you all of a sudden have a question right after class that I didn't cover, just shoot me a message and I'll make sure I answer your questions. Love participation. So if you got something to add, please add it. For this next 6 weeks, expectation is that you are spending around 30 hours between lecture, classroom, research, and assignments. Okay, so make sure that your schedule that you have outside of school here can accommodate that. If randomly it can't, you run into a snafu of some sort where you got something else you got to do, let me know in advance. If you tell me the day before an assignment's due you can't do it because you got to work, I'm probably not going to be that lenient. But if you tell me a week out or 2 weeks out, I'll take care of you. Okay, I promise I'll work with you. So discussion boards are very important. Make sure you do them. That is kind of what we have this week for our assignments. So make sure you do. So we have week 1 and week 5 are 2 discussion boards. This week, that's all you have to do. So all you got to do is post and respond to 2 of them. So the initial posting is going to be in by 11:59 Central Time Saturday. Okay, so couple days you still got on that, but hopefully you are, like I said, you've already done some research, started looking at some places, and you'll be able to knock this assignment out in no time. And then make sure you respond to 2 other students. And by respond, I mean, hey, love your concept, think you're going a good direction, but have you thought about this, right? Or basically what you want to avoid is saying, hey, your concept's cool, period, the end. That's not good enough, okay? That's not what we're looking for. So make sure that this is like constructive feedback, constructive criticism, things like that. That's what we're looking for our responses, okay? So the responses are due by 11:59 on Tuesdays. Okay, so that'll be next Tuesday. So make sure you get that 3 posts all together. Cool. Weekly assignments are due when we have them are due Tuesday by 11:59. The exception's week 6, and we'll go over week 6 obviously when we get closer to that. But all assignments will be due Sunday then. So grading, as far as grading is concerned, discussions are very important, as I already said, and they're actually pretty easy to do and they're fun. So make sure you do them. Okay, discussion's worth 40% of your entire grade. So if you neglect to do the discussion, you're gonna have a hard time passing the class. So I really, really encourage you guys to get after these discussions. And like I said too, they're really fun, especially I think for this class more than any other classes even. Discussions are really important because it's going to help you to evolve your concept, right? So this class is all about designing your dream business, right? That's really what it's about, and making it profitable. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of other students in the class who have experience with, have seen, or have researched something that's similar to what you're doing. And the only way that we can get that constructive feedback and help each other out is through these discussions, right? So not only are they important for your grade, but they're important for for the success for your potential business too. So please do them, right? Assignments are worth another 40%, and quizzes are worth 20. So that's kind of the breakdown of everything, right? Questions about any of that so far? I think it's all kind of, we're reiterating everything, but you already know. But any questions on any of that? No? All good? Cool. We will dive right in then. Okay, so this class is the main purpose of this class, again, is to help you design a business, okay? And I've had a lot of questions already kind of regarding like, okay, well, I don't know, maybe I want to be a private chef, or I want to do a food truck, and it doesn't look like this assignment's designed that way. I'll just tell you right now, it is, okay? Like this assignment is whatever you want to make it, okay? So if you have some wild idea about some sort of food business that has never existed before, I'm all ears. I'd love to hear about it, actually. I think the other students love to hear about it too. So let's talk about it, and don't feel like, that you're confined to, specifics of any sort really on this. I know a lot of you have been asking about the 100-seat minimum. We don't need to worry about the 100-seat minimum thing, okay? So if you have a food truck, you're obviously not going to have seats, right? So don't worry about it, right? If you have a food truck, we're going to figure out a way that you can calculate some of these things, like your covers, for example, are going to be the people coming to your truck buying food, right? So that's your front of house, right? Those are your customers. So I'll work with you on all that. So don't worry about, shoot, I wanted to be a private chef, but now I can't because, the chef said I have to do this assignment differently. So we're going to play that game. We're flexible. Okay. So do what you want to do. Right. So first thing we're going to talk about is choosing the right equipment. Okay. So that's kind of the basis for a business, right? Is equipment, right? So you can't open up any sort of business that I'm aware of without, some burners, an oven, chairs, right? This is all equipment, right? So commonly in restaurants is referred to as FF&E, right? Which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Okay, that's everything under your roof essentially. Okay, so all very important stuff. When it comes to picking out equipment, okay, we're gonna have to do that throughout this course. First of all, I'd say if you know what your business is going to be already, start digging around, right? Start looking at some different websites. I'm going to show you one here in a second. But start digging around and getting some pricing ideas, getting size ideas, get ideas of what's out there, because there's tons of technology. I've seen a lot of it, but I wouldn't even say I've seen most of it. So the more research you guys do on your own, the better your business is really going to be in the end, right? And the better your design's going to look. There's ovens that are cross utilized as microwaves and steamers, and holding ovens and smokers even, right? So there's one piece of equipment that does all that, right? So make sure you do your research, because if you have a tight space, right? So you're in a food truck, and you're like, well, shoot, I want these 5 pieces of equipment, but I can't because I don't have enough space. You might be able to, right? So just do some research, or ask me too. A lot of this stuff I know about. Say, hey, chef, is there something that smokes, holds, and cooks all under one little box? And I could say, yes, there is, and it's sweet, and I will tell you all about it. So, cool. So, equipment's important. We're going to talk about kitchen and front house layout and design. And again, food truck, totally fine. Private chef situation, totally fine. Bakery, absolutely, do it. We're going to talk about efficient use of space and flow of service. Okay. And so when I say flow of service, does everyone know what I'm talking about when we talk about flow? Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, how everything goes, like front of the house to back of the house, how the waiters come in, grab their food, take everything out, how the food is passed either along the line or passed to whoever's expoing it. And it's just how it's the feng shui of the restaurant, if you will.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Sean, since you have experience in the business, can you name something that's a common issue with flow?
Like on the examples that were given in some of the quizzes, how if they're not passed along the correct way, like if certain stations aren't getting their stuff in the correct order, then there'll be a backup that way. Just not getting the orders quick enough from front of the house to back of the house. If there's a hiccup somewhere in that part of your system, then orders are going to be late and people are going to be mad because they're waiting a long time for your food. Or vice versa. If you're not getting your food up to them somehow, then the customers are still going to be suffering, which is not what you want.
For sure. Yeah. And so when we talk about flow and we're setting up our spaces, folks, keep in mind that we're not just talking about people moving, right? We're not talking about like people walking around. We're talking about the food, right? So the food gets to your door, where it's delivered, how it's delivered, right? These are things you got to think about, because if you build an awesome space, right? Say you're in the middle of a marketplace, right? How do you get your delivery, right? That's important. If you can't get your food, well, what are you going to do, right? You're screwed. So think about not only just like how people are moving around, but how one individual item, right? So a burger, right? Think about how that burger moves from your sales rep or your provider of food, right? Cisco or whoever it is, to your establishment, to your walk-in cooler, to your grill, right? And then back out to your expediter, right? And then finally your front house, right? So how does that shift around? How does that move, right? So super important to keep that in mind. That is what flow is, right? And it's very, I've been in a lot of restaurants before that had great food, great service. They were making money, but they could have made a bunch more money if their design would have been better, right? They could have just moved a couple things around, moved some pieces of equipment. They would have made them a ton of money, right? So those of you too who are maybe already chefs, or you're like, God, I'm not quite ready to run my own business, or maybe you never want to run your own business. Totally fine. Just keep in mind that this class is going to be really important for you, because as a chef, as a kitchen manager, as a private chef, whatever you are, if you can do simple things like move fixed pieces of equipment around, move them around a little bit to make people's lives easier, you're going to get a ton of respect. You're probably going to get more money, right? You're going to get praise. You're going to get all that, right? So for example, I worked as a chef at a Spanish restaurant, my first chef gig, right? Didn't think I would ever have to think about design or flow or any of that. And one day the owner came to me and he's like, hey, I want to open a bakery in the basement of this place and do cakes, retail cakes and things like that. And I'm like, well, sweet, have fun, get after it, right? He's like, no, you're gonna help me with it, right? Because I had some baking experience. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I know nothing about it. So what do? Jump online, do a bunch of research, and we were able to create a pretty successful bakery within this place. But I had no idea that I would ever have to do that, right? If someone would have sat me in this class 15 years ago, or I can't remember how old I am, but anyway, I would have said, I don't need this, right? I'm gonna tell you right now, you're probably gonna need it at some point in time, right? So it's gonna help you a lot, right? So even if you're not gonna do your own business, pay attention, do the assignments because they're fun too. You're gonna have fun with it. It's your dream space. Go wild. So cool. Where else we? So I'm gonna just show you this this quick. I had some serious issues when I initiated screen sharing last time, so I'm gonna try again. Give me 1 second here. Is everyone looking at my screen? Yes?
Yes, sir. I see it.
Awesome, I did it. Cool. So this is a website that I've gone to numerous times. They are actually based out of Boulder, Colorado. I know Chef Jesper has used them a lot. I'm not saying you have to buy your equipment from these folks because I don't have anyone that, my family doesn't own the business or anything like that. I'm not like trying to support somebody here, but it's a cool, it's just a cool base, I guess, to start with, okay? Because you can type literally anything in this little box up here, right? So if I'm like, okay, I know I need burners and an oven, right? So I'm gonna say oven range combo. All right, let's start with combo. Combination range. Sorry, I gotta be able to spell, I guess. Anyway, it's probably not going to take me to where I want to, but let's see. So the problem with this, obviously, is going to pull up a lot of stuff that.
Combination oven pulled up under the drop down.
Oven, though. We'll work through it though. Yes, burners. So let's do this. Cool. There we go. Cool. So here. I already learned something, right, that maybe I didn't know, okay? So I need a griddle, I need burners, I need ovens. Look, I just pulled up one piece of equipment that is all that already in there, okay? Cool. I don't want to pay, so they say their price is lower than it actually is, so whatever, who knows. I probably don't want to pay to buy a new piece of equipment. So I'm going to take this, right, copy and paste the SKU number or even just the description of the item, go to eBay, go to my local used equipment store, whatever, and that way I can just at least start to like get an idea of what things cost, right? If I look at it and I say, okay, this is actually $500 less than a brand new one, I'm probably gonna buy this. Otherwise, I'm gonna say, cool, thanks for the info, Tundra. I'm gonna take this and run with it, right? So this is just a good equipment store, if you will, to start with. I know there's a link too. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it already on the page on the online campus. There's a link with I can't remember the name of it. Chef Ryan, help me out. What's the the page that's on the week 1 online campus? No, cool. Anyway, there's lots of options. Doesn't matter. So, but this is just a good website. It has everything, right? So it has everything under the sun. If you're doing a bakery, type bread oven. If you want, one thing to keep in mind if you just want burners, they're actually called hot plates, right? So to have a hot plate. Cool. So that's just the burners, right? So you can get the combo units or the burners, right? Just to back up a little bit too, I really recommend that you buy as much used as possible, okay? If you can find all your equipment used, awesome, right? It's likely that you're gonna have to do annual or semi-annual maintenance on all this stuff anyway, because in restaurants, you beat the crap out of your equipment, right? Especially high volume restaurants, you're rough on it. Like if you're not rough on it, somebody else is going to be, okay? So constantly maintaining it, constantly doing stuff with it, so buy used with the exception of refrigeration. So I always recommend buy refrigeration new, okay? There's a lot of different companies out there selling refrigeration. I've used many of them, and I've found that the best refrigeration isn't necessarily the most expensive, okay? So I say buy new cheap refrigeration and buy used everything else. Right? That's my my recommendation. Okay. I just saw too. Somebody just sent a message. Auctions. Who said that? Auctions. Who said auctions? Somebody?
I did, Chef.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. Auctions are awesome, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
You want
I
to tell us about what you found?
A tilt skillet, a convection oven. I found a new refrigerator and a walk-in freezer that had not been used. A 3-basin sink, ice maker, steam tables, and a new holding cabinet that had not been used.
Yeah.
And then all of the furniture, a China buffet had closed, so all the dining room furniture that I have came from the China buffet.
Awesome. Awesome. Good for you.
Teresa, where do you find those auctions?
I live in Indianapolis, so you can look them up on the paper. They have them posted every Saturday. So whatever city you live in, every Saturday there will be an auction.
Okay, thank you.
And Amelia, there are companies that literally that's their job is to just do restaurant auctions. So there's probably one, assuming you live in somewhere that's semi-populated. There are restaurants opening and closing all the time. There are companies that go in, they buy all this stuff, they take it and they resell it, right? And I don't know for a fact, but I would guess that Teresa probably spent substantially less than she would have buying all this stuff new, even though she got a lot of it brand new, right? Because these companies are just buying everything under this roof. They're taking it and they're auctioning it all off. So a lot of times they want you to buy everything, right? And so if someone's already bid on everything that was in the space, then they might go that route as opposed to trying to piece it out because it's easier for them and they don't end up with leftover junk. But overall, auctions are a great option. So, and I will say, just with I did talk about refrigeration being new. The biggest thing there is that so for example, that range we were looking at, that combination range, right, with the burners and the ovens, there's probably I don't know. I'm guessing there's probably about $500 worth of things they're going to go wrong with it in the next 3 to 5 years after you buy it, right? And about $500 worth. Okay, that's the cost of doing business, right? It's the cost of owning that piece of equipment. But you can probably buy a used unit for less than half the price. Whereas when you talk about a piece of refrigeration, the compressor alone on a piece of refrigeration usually costs almost 75% of the whole unit itself, right? So the refrigeration unit is literally just a stainless steel box, and the mechanics of it, or the compressor, that's what's pricey, right? That's what's going to drive your bill through the roof. So that's why I say, and they commonly go out too. So that's why I say buy new refrigeration. I highly, strongly recommend. So cool. I'm good on that equipment stuff. So again, start digging around, looking at equipment that you think's cool or that think's going to work well in your space. Obviously, if you're in a food truck type business, you want to look at the kind of stuff like I was talking about, the combination units, the stuff that's going to take up less space and do a lot of things all at once, right? Think about, when you're thinking about equipment too, think about what style of food you're serving, right? So before you just go and say, oh man, that combi oven is sweet. It's all shiny and new and looks all nice. Cool. But do you need a combi oven for a burger joint, right? Probably not, right? So your style of service, your style of business that you're operating should be a big part in when you're thinking about buying equipment, okay? Typically speaking, you want to think about size, right? If your space is compact, you want compact equipment. If your style of service is turn and burn, fast service, you want things like griddles, like fryers, right? Things that get hot fast and stay hot, okay? So think about those things, right? Make sense to everybody? Anyone have questions on equipment stuff thus far? No? Cool. All right, so when you go to start buying stuff, you're gonna look at a couple of different options, right? Rent, buy, lease, own it. Okay, we already kind of talked about this, but my recommendation is find the money, buy it. Okay, because if you're leasing or renting something, the amount of money you're going to spend on the monthly fees for that thing plus the interest are going to be so ridiculous that you are going to never come out ahead. Okay, because keep in mind too, I already said inevitably your equipment's going to break. Okay, it's going to happen. Everything in your restaurant is going to have some issue go wrong with it. So if you're renting something and you also have to pay your rent fees, your interest fee, and something goes wrong with it that's not covered under some sort of insurance, you're losing a ton of money, right? So keep that in mind. You know, I personally would say cheap out somewhere else because I'm all about cheaping out. Believe me, I've opened enough restaurants. I understand. You got to cut corners in places, right? So maybe do some painting yourself or install your own plumbing if you're good at that or whatever. Save money somewhere else so you can have that money to buy good equipment. Good equipment is crucial to the business. So menu. So how menu and physical design interact? I kind of just touched on that a little bit. Like, does that make sense to everyone? Like, anyone have a question about like what kind of like overall equipment they might need for their type of establishment? Is everyone good on that? Yeah? Everyone know what they're doing? Cool. So, for example, if you own a bakery, right, you don't need to be looking at, you don't need to be looking at ranges at all, right? You don't need to worry about buying like that combination oven we saw. Do not buy that if you have a bakery, right? Because the ovens are going to suck for you, right? Because you're trying to make nice breads and pastries and things like that. Ovens are not going to be good enough, right? And you don't need 6 burners and a griddle if you're just making baked goods, right? So invest the money and the space in a nice oven, and maybe buy a couple induction burners, right, to do your chocolate work or your sauce work or whatever with, right? So think about those things as you're going through this, right? So physical location of your establishment obviously is something that's important too. When you're looking at the different types of places you can go into, and we're going to get a lot more in depth in this as the weeks progress, but just keep in mind that if you have a really stellar concept, and there's a restaurant space that's for lease. I'm just going to use my example because I'm in the middle of nowhere right now. In the middle of nowhere in Montana, right? There's a restaurant that's 5 miles from me that's been for sale for 5 years, right? Ouch, right? They're losing money nonstop. I have some great concept ideas kicking around. I'm sure some other people do in the area. No one's opened a restaurant there. Why? Because it's in the middle of nowhere, right? It's not going to make money. It doesn't matter what you put there. So that's not always the case, right? That's not always the case. There are like some cool like mountain lodges and stuff like that. Tacos, right? Everyone loves tacos. Open taco truck there. It's gonna go nuts. No, but keep that in mind that there are certain locations that just don't work for your concept. If you live in an area where there's not a lot of people, and there's not a lot of people who have a ton of money they want to throw at food, don't open a fine dining restaurant, right? Because you're not going to do well. Like if you have, foie gras and truffles on your menu every day, people probably aren't going to go there when they're used to eating burgers and tacos, right? Unless it's a foie gras taco, which I would love. Sounds great. Cool. What's next here? This week's discussion. So this week's discussion is your grade for the week, right? So everyone's doing it, right? Everyone's doing it. Maybe you already done it. Yeah? Yeah? Cool. Before I jump in there though, there were some issues with the link for that discussion forum. I know I had a couple students contact me. Daniel from student support said he fixed it. If anyone has continuing issues, please let me know, and I'll make sure that we're good. But thus far, everyone's able to get into it. You can see the link and all that. Yeah? Cool. So with that, remember, this is all you're being graded on this week. Okay? So dive into this and have fun, right? So the discussion is asking you what restaurants designs inspire you. Okay? So what do you think's cool? It doesn't have to be a place that's next to you, right? It doesn't have to be a place that's anywhere near you, right? It doesn't have to be your hometown, whatever. It doesn't even have to be similar, right? You might be opening a bakery and you're inspired by a taco truck, right? Cool. Why? Right? It doesn't have to be the same exact business, right? Maybe the taco truck has really cool like decor, or maybe they're in a great location, and that's an inspiration to you. So think outside the box, I guess is what I'm trying to say with this. Think outside the box. Find images. You can find images of the exterior of these places. You can find images of the interior. You can find images of the kitchen. If you can find like architectural drawings, awesome. Throw those in there too, because that's going to help us design our space here. I think week 4, where we're actually moving stuff around. So whatever you have, whatever pictures you can find, post them up, put a link on them, and let's start talking about them too, folks. Let's give people feedback, right? Because this is like the one example of feedback that's definitely not going to hurt your feelings, even if you're sensitive like me. Like no one's going to say anything to you or shouldn't say anything that says this is stupid, right? This is the opposite of that. This is the opportunity for everyone to say, hey, I like this idea, but are you sure this, you should have, tacos and baked goods under the same roof? Does that make sense? Tacos and cinnamon rolls, right? Does that make sense? Because even that one for me is a little bit weird, and I eat everything, right? So, that's the kind of feedback we're looking for when you reply to these posts is, hey, this looks sweet. I love the fact that you're doing 2 things that have never been put together, right? That's inventive. That's fun. But do you think there's a market for that? Okay, that's kind of feedback we're looking for in the discussion forums, right? So once you do your initial post, 2 replies, they should be constructive feedback. Cool. That makes sense to everybody? Yes, sweet. What would you change, right? So that's another thing we can ask ourselves when we're looking at these other spaces is what about this business would you change? It doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe it's the opposite of that. Maybe it's like, okay, this restaurant is down the street from me, and I've just learned a lot from them about what not to do, right? Cool. Take a picture, send a picture, whatever, and say, okay, I'm not doing this with my space because of this, because there's constantly lines out the door and everyone comes out running, vomiting. They're obviously giving people food poisoning. Not doing that, right? Okay, so whatever it might be, it doesn't have to be like all always like a positive example that you're giving, right? So if you have something that's like that you just say, hey, this inspired me because I know I'd never want to do anything like that. Awesome, love it. Let's see a picture of it, or send us a post in the description. Cool. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys again real quick. Any questions so far though before I do that, or while I'm doing that? Nada? All right, cool. Okay, everyone see my screen? I did it again, twice in a row. My night's going so much better than it was last class. I'm loving it. All right, so I just grabbed a bunch of examples. Maybe it's stuff that inspires me, maybe it's not. Doesn't matter. Again, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be in this country. You can find stuff from anywhere on the internet. So let's just grab this picture real quick. Cool. So this is just a bunch of just traditional restaurants. Okay. So these are all examples of traditional restaurant designs, right? How they're laid out in the kitchen. Okay. So for my posting, maybe I'm going to grab this one. Right. Everyone see that? And I'm going to say, sorry, give me a second. Wow, load. That's not what I want to see. That's too big. So I'm going to take a look at this space. I'm going to say, I like this because it's super compact, right? I like this. It fits with my concept because I only have 12 menu items and I'm doing grab and go service. I have no seats out front. This restaurant space makes sense for me because of that, right? I have 6 burners. I have 2 ovens. I have a salamander. I have my plateware and everything all right there. Super easy. I'm going to have 2 guys running the service for the night, 2 servers, and I'm done, right? 2 servers running food out to people, whatever it is. So that's why you're inspired by that. That makes sense? Cool. Bakery. Everyone see that guy? Yeah? Cool. So bakery, as you can see, this design's totally different than a traditional kitchen or a traditional restaurant kitchen, right? Think about that when you're looking at equipment, when you're looking at putting all your equipment in place. Like this is the entire bakery, and there's two pieces of equipment in it. You got a mixer and you got an oven, right? Again, you might want to have a couple burners. You might want to have even an induction burner, an electric burner, something like that. You can move around if you have a bakery. But really, this is a good example of like a minimalistic bakery that could be really successful as well, right? So something you like about it is, I love the fact that I'm gonna be able to make all my cinnamon rolls in there. I got my mixer, I got my oven, I got my kneading table there, I got my dry storage. It's all I need. I'm good, right? Cool. Private chef example. I had a couple of you talk to me about that. I love that. Private chef work is super fun and rewarding. So this is a good example of what you might show if you're aspiring to be a private chef, right? So I wish that was my kitchen, right? It looks nice.
Yeah, I'll take that in a heartbeat, Chef.
Yeah. So this could also be something that you look at design-wise if you're doing a food truck or something like that too, or some catering, right? If you want to cater out of your own home and your health department's going to let you do that, this would be a good example. But keep in mind that we're going to look at things. Let me just get a pencil because I'm super good at drawing. I found out in my last class. So we're looking at flow here, right? Right. So you got your sink. That's a fat marker. That's crazy. Anyway, we got our little sink there, right? We got hand sink, prep sink. We got our burners here. Storage, right? So I'm gonna ask about this, right? This is an oven, I assume, maybe. Who knows? So when you think about when I'm looking at this and saying, okay, you're saying this is your kitchen. This is where you want to serve 20 people a night. A couple things I'm gonna look at is, okay, well, first of all, you probably want a hand sink and a prep sink, okay? Even if you're doing a private chef work, you probably want to have your hand washing separate, right? Health department's going to require that. So I'd say maybe, get rid of this weird bread thing there, maybe a coffee grinder or whatever it is. Put a prep sink next to that, okay? And then also think about your flow here when you're cooking, right? So when you're cooking, you want to have probably some refrigeration a lot closer, right? So I'd say move that guy over a little closer, right? Or you have drawer units, right? Drawer units underneath your range, and then move your oven over to here where that pipe is, which maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure. But those are things to just look at, right? Is the flow, because flow is important whether you're in a standard commercial kitchen or you're in a fancy stay-at-home whatever kitchen, or you're in a food truck or a bakery or whatever, right? So we're gonna look at all that stuff with your designs, right? So, and you could pull this too. You can pull this picture and say, I love this because it's pretty and it looks like the equipment's gonna work nice, but I found that I would probably need some refrigeration space to store all my burgers underneath, right? Or I want to have my meat closer so I can do more searing, right? Or I want to change my burners into a grill, right? So this is all stuff that you can put post on the forum there, okay? Last example was a food truck, and I actually pulled again a pretty small space, but you can see like how efficient this is, right? So like tons of burners there, right? So depending on what you're doing, like I imagine there's a lot of saute work. Maybe they're prepping a lot of sauces in there. Either way, it's a lot of burners, but it's efficient, right? Salamander's up above there, right? It's for broiling, and then they're passing everything out the window. Okay, so this to me, I would say, love this example. Super efficient, flows solid, love it, right? Because a lot of your cold storage is maybe here. You're passing here, around, out the door.
Is that door blocked right there where your arrow just went?
This
over on
one?
the bottom left? No, the low boy door. Is there space right there? Further up against the wall? Yeah, that one right there where your cursor just went over.
Here?
You see the double doors right here.
Yeah.
Is there space right there? Okay, it's hard to see.
I think there's a lot. I think this is 3 feet of space here, right? I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think
there's the door. Okay, I see that part.
Good question. I think it's an exit door. And then looks like they have a skillet here too, or a steamer maybe. I'm not sure, but anyway.
A tilted skillet, yeah.
Yeah, there you go, tilt skillet. Yeah. So overall, like this is a sweet space too, right? So I'd have a lot of positive things to say about the flow of this space because it's so like you could have two guys in here, and they're just crushing it out, just cranking food out, right? So that's what you're looking for in food trucks. I would imagine, and those of you who are doing food trucks are thinking about volume, right? You're thinking about serving a lot of people in a fast, time frame, in a quick time frame. So the only thing I would think about here is like, well, do you need a fryer, right? Because as we talked about earlier, fryer is a super quick way to pick up food, right? Even if it's not French fries, right? If you're doing wings or some pre-made things or whatever, fryer is super fast. And when you're getting your butt kicked here, lines out in front of your truck, you're going to want to be able to get food out the door fast. So cool.
Yeah, pull that tilted skillet and put in a fryer there.
There you go. Yeah, because I can't imagine why you need a tilt skillet in the food truck, but maybe
unless you're doing soup, bulk soup by the billions.
Yep. And maybe they are. And again, that's totally fine. If that's your dream, if that's what you want to do, then cool. As long as you folks, please just go wild with this. Like have fun with this, right? This is a cool assignment. So just make sure I'm gonna make sure your flow is good. I make sure that your purchasing isn't insane, right? You're not buying like way more equipment than you need. And I'm gonna make sure that overall we want your business to be profitable. Okay, so that's super important. So, and again, those of you who are wanting to never open up your own business, which is totally fine, or you don't want to do it for another 5 years, keep in mind this is still super helpful. I'll just give you another quick personal example. I worked for this breakfast chain, as I already mentioned, and they totally, I was there for 2 years, right? There were 2 locations, and then now there's like 16 of them. So they built this chain, right? So when we first opened, it was literally these guys like scraping money together, just kind of like making things work. They bought the cheapest stuff they could buy. It was not organized at all. The flow was terrible. So 2 years in, they put me in charge of designing their ideal kitchen, right? Their model kitchen, which was super fun for me, but also super intimidating, right? Because I'm like sitting with these architects and kind of doing stuff I didn't know about. So I was doing a lot of research online, talking to a lot of other chefs I knew, and trying to figure things out. I never thought in my life I would have to do that. Like I never thought I would ever have to look at architectural drawings, other than if I was designing my own house or something like that. I never thought that, but I did, and I was able to do it because I did some research and I had fun with it, and it is super fun. So keep that in mind that this there's a lot that's going on in this class, and I think a lot of it will be super important to you regardless of what you decide to do with your life. So cool. Any questions on the discussion at all from anybody? No? Sweet. Last thing I'm going to show you guys is the assignment, which is the equipment list and station map. Okay. Has anyone looked at this already? No? Cool.
No.
So everyone made a menu in CE 185, correct? Yeah?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Cool. So we're going to use that same menu you made. We're going to go down here. We're going to click on this little station map example.
My question on that is, how many do you want for that? Do you want the 5 that they have in there, or do you want us to do the entire menu, or how does that work?
No, let's just start with 5 for now. That's a good question. Thank you. I assume you all have at least 5 items, right? So start with 5, and then if we need to build some more later, we'll do that. But for this first assignment, you just need 5. Okay.
Okay, heard. Cool. And the link is back up for the discussion too, correct? That's what you said student services took care of?
Yes. Let me just go back there and make sure. Yeah.
Because I made it into that one. I clicked on that, and then there was nothing available in there. See, that wasn't available for the year inspiration. So
two posts.
that's
so
good to
we
know.
are good. It is obviously working because people.
Nice.
So sorry about that, but we're good to go.
Oh, no worries.
Go back real quick. Give me a second. Okay, so let's just click on that example. Okay. So again, you just copy and paste or retype, however you want to do it, your 5 menu items, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Anything. The screen is in gray.
It's gray
Yes.
for everybody.
Yeah, for me too.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, let me stop sharing and then I'm gonna share again. We'll try it again. Ryan, I might have to have you do it if I can't do it the second time, if that's all right.
Okay, I'll do it if I can.
Give me 1 second. How about now? Yeah, we did it. Nice.
It's up. It's up.
All right. So, again, so the left side, right? So you're going to look at this, this station map equipment list. It's going to be totally blank. Okay. It's going to have menu item, component, station, equipment, right? Those columns are all going to be there. What you're going to do is you're going to go fill in all the rows, right? So in this case, they say bacon cheeseburger. And again, these are items from your menu. I don't care what you pick. Any 5 items off your menu. If you can, it'd be cool to have some variety, right? So burger, salad, soup, baked good, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So mix it up a little bit as opposed to just having like 5 different burgers, right? That you have on the menu. Don't do that. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So menu item, right? So just super straightforward. Component. Now, important to keep in mind with this is that we're talking about what makes up that dish, what makes up the burger dish, not the ingredients. Okay. So if you're seasoning your burger, your burger meat with onion powder and Worcestershire and salt before you patty them, I don't need you to put the onion powder, Worcestershire, and salt in that component list. Does that make sense? So components versus ingredients. Everyone on the same page as me?
Yes.
Cool. So let's go to the salad. For the salad, they're saying grilled chicken Caesar is marinated chicken breast, romaine, dressing, toppings. Cool. Those are the components of the dish. Next is the station. Okay, this is which person, which set of people, whatever it is, are
Bring that
eating
on.
this dish, right?
That's why you trying to put your hand in your pocket real fast.
It's grill.
Now I'm saying like putting your
It's grill and garde manger. Okay. So garde manger could be your pantry station, or you can call it salad station. I don't really care either way. Garde manger sounds nice and fancy, so if you can use that, that's fun. I would probably spell it incorrectly, but whatever. Anyhow, so you see how there's 2 stations involved for this salad, but only 1 station involved for the pasta, for example, right? So the pasta's got fettuccine, sauce, toppings, all that's coming out of sauté. This could have just as easily been 2 stations, right? So I'd say sauté and maybe expo, right? That's one thing I think that maybe is missing from this equipment list, or sorry, station map, is your garnish work, right? Maybe all your garnish work's being done on the station. That's fine too, but something to think about too is who's putting the parsley on top of the pasta or the cheese or whatever like that. So you can throw that in there as well. Last is equipment. Okay, and I think we talked about this enough. I hope we're all thinking correctly about it. Thinking we want to maximize efficiency. Okay, that's what this equipment's all about. Is finding the best piece of equipment to do the most amount of work. Right. So here, I'm going to look at my burger. One thing you want to be thinking about too is the amount of steps, right? So how many steps does it take to make this dish, right? And we're going to find out when we look at our equipment, right? So fridge. So burger patty goes from fridge to griddle. Deep fryer is going to be used for your fries, for your side of fries, right? Salamander, melting your cheese on there. Prep table, heat lamp, okay? So maybe that's a lot of steps for your food. I don't know. Does that make sense when I'm saying steps, right? like 1 through 6 or however many steps are involved there. One thing too that we're looking at is the bun, right? So we're griddling the bun, right? Maybe you can put your, do more work in the salamander and eliminate a step. Maybe you want to do super high volume, like fast food style burgers, and you can do all of it in those Turbo Chef ovens, like that a Starbucks uses and stuff. Those things are sweet, right? So, and maybe that's going to work better for your space because you have a small space and you want to do huge volume, right? So this burger, to me, if I have a pretty small space and I'm not a huge volume restaurant, this is a lot of steps, right? A lot of steps for one item, right? So that makes sense? Makes sense to everybody? Let me see if I can pull up too real quick. We have some folks working on a bakery, right? Is anyone in this class right now who's working on a bakery?
A few of us.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to show you, because that's kind of a weird one. So just give me 1 second here. And cool. So this should be a blank one. Okay, so this is you're gonna copy. This is the sheet you're gonna copy. Does that make sense? And that's gonna have everything in it. So see this left side of my screen here?
You're not sharing your screen, Chef Tyson.
Oh yeah, whoops. All right, try that one more time. Sorry. How about now? Yeah, good, awesome. So this is what you're gonna look at, right? This is the link that's on the web page at the bottom under assignment. This is what you're gonna copy and paste into your Google Drive, okay? So here's an example of a blank slate, okay? So if we're doing bread, right? So say we have that's pretty small. Let me just, sorry, give me 1 second. Make that work. So say we're doing a honey wheat bread, okay? That's my menu item in my bakery, right? Components. Now for this one, this is tricky because bread's all about your ingredients, right? Right? But my component isn't flour, yeast, water, sugar, salt. That's not my component. My component is going to be my bread, so loaf of bread. And say we're doing say before we sell the bread, we're doing I don't know, say we do a flour dust or some sort of topping like that, right? So that's what's called toppings, okay? Or cinnamon roll, icing, cinnamon roll. Okay, those are my components, okay? That makes sense? If your bread doesn't have any toppings on it, then your component is a loaf of bread. Easy, right? Station is going to be baker, right? Because your breads, you're gonna go from your prep station to your proofing station to your oven, right? And then out to the guest. That makes sense? And this can be different too, folks. Too, if you want your prep person and your baker, or your baker and your garnisher, right, to do the same thing, sweet, right? Doesn't matter to me as long as you list the station there and it makes sense, right? It flows. Okay, so your oven that you're throwing the bread in shouldn't be 100 feet away from where your bread's being garnished. Okay, that wouldn't make any sense. Okay, equipment used for my loaf of bread is my, you call it your combination oven, right? Cool, because we're just talking about service here, right? We're just talking about how the food goes from being prepped to walking out the door, right? That's what we're talking about with flow. Now, keep in mind though, if your prep station is in the center of all this, right? If you have a prep station just nestled into everything, I'm gonna stop you and I'm gonna say, well, okay, this makes sense, but when are you prepping? Okay, if your bakers are doing all their work, all their doughs, all their sponges, in the morning, and then service is later in the day, then it makes sense, right? Your prep station can be anywhere, but it's probably not going to make sense to have people making your doughs in the center of everyone pulling stuff out of the oven, right? Because you're going to burn somebody and you're going to get in the way and the bread's going to drop on the floor and whatever else. So cool. That makes sense to everyone. So you don't need to have a list on everything necessarily, right? That said, if you just said burger, right, on your menu item you just said burger, and the component you just said burger, well, that's not going to be good enough, right? Because there's more components to a burger than that. Okay, so the moral of the story is, if you want to make this assignment easier, everyone should just open a bakery, right? It's going to be harder later, right? Because baking's tough, but no. So I'll just show you too while we have this open. So this is kind of how this the rest of this is laid out, right? So this is going to take you through the rest of the weeks. You're going to use this same tool to carry you through the entire 6 weeks, which is awesome, right? Because you can get ahead on it. You can look at it before class if you want. Ask me questions that you have about it before we dive into it. So this is going to make your lives a lot easier, I promise, right? So week 3, you're going to copy and paste items, actually equipment items, into your space. Week 4, you're going to do the same. Week 5, we're going to take our menu items, and then we're going to make a workflow, right? So we're going to see what this looks like in your actual kitchen, right? So where your cinnamon roll goes to from your dough to your oven to your finishing station and then out to the guest, right? So we're going to map all that out in week 5, right? Using this stuff. So this is our template. Okay.
If I can jump in real quick.
Yes.
If I could jump in just real quick. I know in a lot of the other classes that you've had so far, you turn in sort of like a different file for every week. On this one, it's going to be the same file. So every assignment is going to be on this one template. If you're turning in sort of like week 3's assignment and weeks 2 and 1 aren't also in the same file, it's going to make things harder moving on. So try to do basically every assignment is going to go into this same template.
Thank you. Okay, good point. Good point. Cool. So this is an example of a back of house, right? See how it's all blank? We'll end up dragging equipment into this and positioning it properly so we have good flow. Okay. But you can feel free to just look at this stuff beforehand too, and that way if you have questions, like I said, you can ask us. Front of house is just blank. Those of you who are doing a bakery that doesn't plan on having any front of house, or a private chef gig or whatever, I will probably still have you work on something in the front of house just so we can get an idea of how that works, and a kind of over idea of flow. Because like I said, obviously I've made it pretty clear that my career has certainly changed substantially as time progressed. And so if you start a bakery and you're just doing counter service, and all of a sudden people are really wanting to buy sandwiches from you or even buy bread and sit and hang out, you might be able to make some money and say, hey, okay, I'm actually going to expand, right? The business next to me is closing. I'm going to expand my business, open a front of house, right? So just because you're not thinking about it right now doesn't mean you're not going to think about it down the road, right? Food truck is the next one here, right? Smaller space to work with, but again, want to maximize efficiency here, right? Buying equipment that we can do huge volume out of, buying equipment that cooks fast, things like that, okay? Next, those two, we won't get into those. Cool. This is where all your equipment is. So you'll be able to drag everything around. Like you got a little mixer there, grill, toilets even, right? It's got it all. It's got it all. So
I have a question.
yeah.
What is the workflow labels on 111 to till number 15 in different colors? What are those?
So we'll you don't need to worry about that right now. Sorry, I'm showing you too much, but what that's going to be is the steps. Okay. Right. So that's step 1 through 5, 1 through 10, etc. So that's, again, like we were talking about that burger coming in your restaurant, right? Step 1, go into your cooler. Step 2, or in your case, it's your bread, right? So where is your dough stored? Where's your, where's your oven, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4 is the guest. That makes sense? Cool. But we'll play with that later. We'll play with that once we get there. So, any questions on this thing before I X out of it and stop sharing? No? Cool. So that is your assignment. Like I said, discussion, super easy. And any questions from anybody?
So since we have to use that one file for all of our assignments, should we just have a folder that's just CE 155 and not have week?
It's whatever's easiest to organize your work, but I would recommend just having the one file because it's basically going to have just the one folder because it's basically just going to be the same file that you're updating every single week.
Okay.
Anybody else? Ready to get after it, do some research, find some cool spaces? Should have fun with this. Please have fun with it. If it's not fun, you're doing something wrong. If it's not fun, call me, and I'll tell you how to make it fun, all right? Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you all. If there's nothing else, I'm going to stop recording.